Wonderful. Welcome. Thank you all for joining me for a 60-minute Yin Yoga class. You can practice this from home. All you need is a yoga mat or a carpeted area. And as far as props go, you don't need any like fancy yoga props, but you might want a blanket that you can roll up and either a yoga block, or if you don't have a yoga block, maybe just like a book. I have The Centennial History of the Pennsylvania Railroad Company, 1846 to 1946. So if you have a very boring book in your home that that you want, feel free to have that nearby, and we'll use that at some point in class. Okay, so if you have a blanket that's rolled up, or even just like a little pillow, if you'd like, you can start by sitting on top of that so that your knees are a little bit lower than your hips, and you can sit crisscross applesauce, or with one foot in front of the other, sitting in Sukhasana, easy pose. You're just going to take a moment here. You can close your eyes or do a soft fuzzy gaze just beyond the tip of your nose. Just start by taking a slow breath in through the nose and a slow breath out through the nose. Gentle inhale and a slow, easy exhale. And just take a moment here just to check in with your breath. Maybe check in with your day. Especially as Americans, something that other people from other cultures have pointed out to me is we'll often in passing say to one another, hey, how are you? But there's no actual interest in how the other party is doing. That's just like our version of saying hello. So sometimes it can feel a little uncomfortable or disingenuous in our culture to really check in and really ask, like, how are you? But this is a moment where you can do that for yourself. How is your heart today? And how are you really doing right now in this moment? And there's no right or wrong answer. Sometimes also when someone asks us that, right, we want to be cheery even if we're not. So we say, oh, I'm good, thanks for asking. Right? So this is an opportunity. You don't have to prove something to someone or seem a certain way. You can just take a moment here and really check in with yourself. How are you doing in this moment? Maybe the answer surprises you. Sometimes too, it can be really difficult to trust that we know how we're doing or what we need or how we're feeling. And yoga, especially Yin Yoga, which goes slow, is a really powerful opportunity to practice this trust in ourselves, this trust that we know what we need, that we're in touch with ourselves, that we can be honest with ourselves, right? Take an inhale through your nose and then exhale through your nose. If your eyes are closed, you can slowly open your eyes and look straight ahead. So start in Sukhasana easy pose with your left foot in front of your right foot. And you're just going to take a moment here, put your hands on the floor, drop your head and fold forward. You can keep your hands on the floor or even come down, forearms on the floor. And we're just going to take a moment here. You might feel a stretch to the outer left thigh. If your left foot is on front of the right foot, you're gently rounding your spine. So in Yin Yoga, we do long holds of floor-based postures. At first, like this posture, we're just going to hold for a minute, but we'll work our way up to 3-minute and even 5-minute postures in class. With Yin Yoga, the idea is less is more. So if you were to hold a posture for like 20 seconds or 30 seconds, I might say, push to your deepest point right away. But when we're holding postures for anywhere from a minute to 5 minutes, you don't have to do as much. The length of the posture kind of takes care of a lot. We're going to work into connective tissue, not just into our muscles, right, but into our joints, into our tendons and ligaments. You want to do about 70% of what you think you should be doing. So especially if you're a go-getter, Yin Yoga can be mentally challenging, but also really like useful, right? To believe that you're doing enough and you don't have to prove anything to yourself or to anyone else. You don't need the deepest stretch of all time. You just want to feel maybe a little something. Relax your head, relax your jaw, inhale, exhale, and slowly walk yourself up. Take your time. You can slowly roll your head up. Okay. Let's do the other side, crossing right foot on top of left foot. And again, I'm sitting on a blanket rolled up underneath me, and you're welcome to as well, so that your hips are a little higher than your knees, but you can also remove it if it doesn't feel good. And as you're ready, you're gonna walk forward and just relax your head. Let your head be heavy, just getting an easy forward fold here at the beginning of class, slowly starting to wake up the body. Can you use your breath to stretch your body? So if you want to, stretch your back on the inhale breath, think about widening the backs of your ribs. And on the exhale breath, let your head and shoulders fall. So the breath is a powerful tool for moving the body, and the breath is also a powerful tool for like compassion and mental focus. So if at any point you find that your mind is like wandering a lot during class and it's not really useful to your yoga practice, you can always just gently return your thoughts to your breath. And it's a very simple way to kind of ground yourself back into the present moment, back into your body, back into your breath. Okay, as you're ready, you're gonna walk your hands back up, slowly roll yourself up, sit up nice and tall. Maybe roll the shoulders back a few times, forward a few times. Okay, if you're sitting on a blanket or pillow, you can remove that from under you, put it to the side, and we're gonna lay down on our back for puddle pose. Rest with your arms and legs down for a moment. Maybe wiggle out your hips or your shoulders. Then just find yourself in a nice, comfortable position. And we'll return to this shape, this relaxed, neutral state throughout class. If lying on your back with your legs long does not feel good to your body, you can always place a small rolled up blanket or pillow under your lower back. You can also bend your legs so that your feet are on the floor and your knees rest side by side. That'll take some pressure off of the lumbar spine. Okay, next is a fan favorite Bananasana banana pose. Picture in your mind's eye your favorite banana. It can be perfectly yellow and ripe. It can be brown and bruised for banana bread. It can be green, not quite there yet. Could be Chiquita, Dole, Trader Joe's, Costco, Fair Trade, organic, somehow all of the above. But picture that C shape in your mind of a banana, and we're gonna make that with our body. So if your legs are bent, straighten your legs again, bring your arms overhead. If you'd like, you can just stretch up and down for a moment. Feels good, like a nice little stretch in the morning. And then start to walk your feet and hands to the right side of your mat, and maybe press your hips a little bit to the left. So from a bird's eye view, you make a C shape or a banana shape. If you'd like, you can cross your left leg on top of your right leg. So you get a nice little IT band stretch to the outer left thigh. You can also cross one hand on top of another, or another fun variation is to bend your elbows and catch your opposite elbow in opposite hand, grabbing elbows. You can have the back of your head on the floor or let your right ear kind of roll down to the floor. The basic idea here is we're gently stretching the left side body, gently compressing the right side body. We're opening through the hips, the chest, the armpits, and we're starting to wake up our spine in the process. We're going to hold here for 3 minutes. We're already a minute in. And if you ever see me look at my phone, that is just to check the time. So there's 3 tenets of Yin Yoga, and they're very simple. First rule is you make a shape with your body, like we're making a banana shape here. Second rule is that you hold the shape, right? That's where the 1 to 5 minutes and the posture comes in. And then the third rule is that you breathe. So all you have to do is make a shape, hold a shape, breathe. Um, at some point in postures, especially longer held postures or just postures that don't come naturally to your body or your physiology, you might get uncomfortable at a certain point, and it's okay to be still and breathe through some discomfort. But if what you're doing ever doesn't feel good, like it's not serving you, it's not sustainable, you're always welcome to switch up what you're doing, either by, grabbing a prop maybe, or by switching up what you're doing a little bit. So for example, if the left side of your body is stretching too much here, you could bring your hands and feet back closer to the center line of your body. Or if you don't feel anything at all, maybe you could bring your hands and feet a little bit further to the right to get a deeper stretch, right? Or if the lower back is hurting, you could wedge a little bit of a blanket under the lower back. Could switch up how you're holding your hands and arms or your feet, right? And again, in some styles of yoga, we're very like rigid with what you should be and should not be doing. But in Yin Yoga, a lot of it is just an opportunity to trust that you know what your body needs. So throughout class, I'll offer some different variations, modifications, ways to use props. But if your body's telling you to do something that I'm not suggesting, please feel free to do it, right? You can get creative with props, you can get creative with modifications or variations for the posture. You do not need to do exactly what I'm doing or what I'm telling you to do. We're just making shapes with our body, holding shapes, and then breathing in and out through our nose. Hold here for another 30 seconds. Take a slow inhale through your nose. And a slow exhale through your nose. When we come out of these postures, especially ones that we're holding for 3 minutes plus, we want to move slowly. So if your head is rolled a little to the right, roll your head back to center. If your arms or legs are crossed, you can slowly uncross them. And then as you're ready, start to bring your arms and legs back to the center line of your mat. You can make any motions that feel good to your body, maybe moving right and left or back and forth. And then make your way back into your puddle pose, your arms and legs down. Again, you can bend your legs or have a blanket under your lower back. And then Yin Yoga, this is sometimes referred to as rebounding, which I think is kind of funny. But the idea is, in that 3-minute posture, we compress one side of the body, stretch one side of the body. We open through the shoulders, the hips, right? We move the spine. So now we just want to find a little bit of neutrality here to let everything reset and realign. And sometimes when you come out of postures, you might find that like the release from them or the puddle pose afterwards is as intense as the asana itself. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes when we're in the posture, we don't feel much. And then when you come back to a more neutral state, you're like, whoa, right? Like you feel a temperature change maybe, or like a surge of an emotion. Maybe your nervous system kicks on a little bit, or maybe you don't feel much at all. And that's very common and just as valid as well. But if you ever like feel some sort of way when you're in a posture or right after, that is also quite normal. Again, we're just learning to believe in our own experience, trust our own experience, right? Really listen to what our bodies are telling us. Let's do the other side of Bananasana. Bring your feet together, arms overhead. You can flex your toes back for a moment, stretch up and down. And then as you're ready, walk your hands and feet to the left side of the room. If you want, you can cross your right ankle on top of your left ankle, stretching the right IT band. You can also keep your feet side by side. You can lengthen your arms, or you can bend your arms and catch opposite elbow and opposite hand. You can have the back of your head on the floor, or let your left ear rest down towards the floor. And we will hold here for 3 minutes. And right away, you might notice that this side feels a little different than the other side, or a lot different, and that's normal. You might know why that is, right? Like a illness or an injury or a previous surgery or whatever it is. Or you might have had no idea until just now that like, ooh, the right hip is a little tight today. And I just remind you that yoga is a really wonderful opportunity for self-realization. And sometimes, we're realizing something about ourselves, like I'm really impatient, or like, wow, I'm really empathetic, right? Or you're learning something about yourself, like my right knee is tight today. And these are all wonderful examples of what happens when we take time to get to know ourselves better, right? There's no right or wrong answer. But if you find that, what you did on the other side doesn't work on this side, you're always welcome to switch it up. Again, grabbing a prop, maybe moving your hands and feet closer to the center line of your body to ease the stretch, or moving your hands and feet further to the left to get a deeper stretch to the right side body, deeper compression to the left side body. Just keep in mind, again, you want to do about 70% of what you would do in a posture that you were holding for like 30 seconds, right? You don't need to go as far. The time and length takes care of that. About a minute and a half left, and I'll just give us an opportunity for stillness and breath. Every exhale, letting your body get a little heavier. Notice where you might be holding on to tension in your body. Just let it go through the exhale breath, rather than forcing your way into the posture, just melting into the posture. Take a slow inhale through your nose. Slow exhale through your nose. If your left ear is rolled down towards the floor, gently roll the back of your head to the floor. If your feet or hands are crossed, take your time uncrossing. Slowly walk your hands and feet back to the center of your mat, making any motions that feel right for your body. And then return to your puddle pose. Something I like about Yin Yoga is a lot of the names for postures are a little bit more, I don't know, like playful or like, conjure a nice image. So, for example, in many styles of yoga, there's a hip opener called pigeon pose, but in Yin Yoga, it's called swan pose. And in many styles of yoga, what we're doing here is called shavasana or like dead body pose or corpse pose. But here it's called puddle pose, right? And it's pretty freestyle. You can open your arms and legs as much as you want. The idea is you just act like a puddle. Okay, as you're ready, you're going to bend your legs so your feet are on the floor if they're not already. Roll off to one side. And if you'd like, you can take a moment on your side, even maybe like hug your knees in, give yourself a nice squeeze, a nice hug. Great. And then keep rolling over, lie on your abdomen for Sphinx pose. So now you can picture in your mind's eye your favorite Sphinx. It can be the Sphinx in Egypt, it can be the Sphinx in Las Vegas, in Harry Potter. And that's the shape that we're going to make with our body. So I'm going to show you from the front and the side. So from the front, if you can think of the Sphinx like the Sphinx in Egypt, right? Think about how their hands are like this and their chest is proud. That's what we're doing here. So that rather than letting the shoulders tense up, you are going to press your forearms into the floor a little bit. Keep the shoulders out of the ears. It's a nice back bend. I'll show you from the side. And there's a couple of options here. You can have your elbows under your shoulders, but this can be a little intense, right? You're welcome to bring your arms forward and that'll loosen the back bend. And if you're either like pregnant, have an upset stomach, maybe you're on your period and it does not feel good to have your stomach on the floor like this, you can also take blankets or pillows, especially if you're pregnant. You can do a lot of blankets and pillows and put them under your like hips and thighs so that your belly hangs down, so that then you're not putting pressure on your abdomen. So this is a nice option, right? Your eyes remove, and then you just let your feet be relaxed. And we're going to hold here for 3 minutes. For me, the big trick is like just keeping the shoulders out of the ears. In general, with Yin Yoga, you want to relax muscles rather than contract muscles, but there are times where you have to have like a little bit of activation in your body. So here you're firmly pressing your forearms into the floor, rolling the shoulders back. Again, it's a healing compression to the lower back. And you're also stretching the fascia on your chest. The fascia is this like spongy substance that kind of holds everything in our body in place, right? So that your organs don't like float away. Obviously bones, tendons, ligaments do that too, but fascia is a big part of what kind of keeps everything in the body in place. Almost like this net that surrounds us is the second largest organ next to our skin. And it's funny because a couple of years ago, there was like all these articles coming out about like scientists discover an organ and it's one of the biggest organs, and it was fascia, and every yoga teacher went, okay. So the most famous example of fascia that you've probably heard of is plantar fasciitis, where like the fascia on your foot tears, right? That can be really painful if you've ever had that. So the idea, the same way with how if you stretch muscles, you're less likely to like tear a muscle. Same thing with fascia here. When we're opening through this chest, we're stretching the fascia on the chest so that it's less likely to tear. So again, it's this idea of like gentle motions held for a long period of time that gently starts to open our body. You don't need like the deepest stretch you've ever had, just the point where you feel good. Hold here for another minute. Keep the shoulders out of the ears, looking forward. And if you're interested in mythology, right, the thing about sphinxes is that they tell riddles. So if you're familiar with Harry Potter book 4, there's a sphinx that tells a riddle in that book, for example. And I like this because yoga can sometimes be a riddle in the sense that it's backwards. Like yoga, I think, gives us answers so that we can ask the questions. So the answer or the command is, right, like we're doing this back bend, we're doing Sphinx pose, but then the questions you get to ask are like, why is it hard to keep my shoulders out of my ears? Or why am I finding it difficult to sit still right now? Or why does this posture feel so much better than the last time I tried it, right? You get the quote unquote answer, which is the posture. or the movement, but then like you get to ask the questions about yourself, about how you're doing. And it's returning back to this idea of like, how is your heart today? No, like seriously, really, how are you doing, in a way that, at least in American culture, we often kind of shy away from. Take an inhale through your nose, exhale through your nose. And we're going to slowly lower down. Start by bringing your elbows out to the side so your hands come in. Option to drop your head down, or maybe look to the right with your left ear on your mat, and keep your elbows bent or arms down by your sides. Some of you are familiar with this, right? Like a belly savasana. If lying on your stomach does not feel good today, you are welcome to lie on your side or lie on your back. And conversely, like when we do a puddle pose on our back later on in class, if that doesn't feel good to your body, you can lie on your side or on your abdomen as well. Again, it's really a dealer's choice class. However, if you are in your abdomen, and if you've been looking to one side, gently lift your head and look to the other side so that your neck gets the other stretch. Okay, if you're looking to one side, look forward, place your hands on the floor and press yourself up into a tabletop position. Next, we're going to do a posture called dragon. And there's several different variations and some handy props that you can use. So I'll show you real quick and then I'll talk you through it. The general idea of dragon is it's like a low runner's lunge, but since we hold it for a long time, it can be a lot on the knee. So a couple options: you're always welcome to roll up your mat so that there's extra padding under your knee, or you can simply place that rolled up blanket under your knee. So if you'd like to get a blanket or a towel and roll it up as much as you want, you're gonna place your knees back on that towel or on that rolled up mat. And then from here, step your right foot in between your hands. And then a couple options: you can slide that left leg back more to work out the left hip, or walk your right foot forward. Now, a couple different ways. There's many dragon variations that are all pretty fun. You can have your hands on either side of your feet. You can have both hands on the inside of your right foot. Could always come down to your forearm. Remember I said at the beginning of class, if you want to have a book nearby or a yoga block, you can see what it feels like to have your hand on a book, or you can take another book over here and have both hands on a book. That might feel different to the hip. And you can also do a nice twist here where you keep your left hand on the inside of your right foot, take right forearm to right knee, and just look a little to the left. Maybe drop your right ear down. And we're only going to hold here for 2 minutes because this can be a little bit intense, right? So you want to feel this nice stretch to the left thigh. Let your belly be heavy. Sometimes it's tempting to pull the abdomen in, but here you can just relax your stomach. Getting a nice stretch to the left hip. Never a point of pain. About a minute left. About 30 seconds left. If you'd like to try another variation, you're welcome to. You can lift up and place your hands on your knees, thighs, or you can come all the way down and let the right knee drop out. And again, this is called dragon pose, and there's like a bajillion different versions of dragon, which are super fun to explore. Again, playful name, right? Who doesn't want to be a dragon? Take an inhale through your nose. Exhale through your nose. Breathe in. Empty out. And then you're going to slowly press yourself back up Take your time. Ooh, you can bring that right knee back and make any circles or motions with your body that feel good. And then just remove that blanket from underneath you. Lie on your abdomen or on your side or back. And take a breath here, letting everything release and reset. You are lying on your abdomen. You can send deep belly breaths in and out through your nose to massage the front of your body. Breathe deep into any point of tension. Let the floor hold you up. If you're looking to one side, gently lift your head, look to the other side. If you're looking to one side, lift your head, place your hands on the floor and press up. Now, before we do the other side of dragon, we're going to take a very gentle version of a child's pose. And I will show you some different variations. So sometimes we would do a wide-legged child's pose where the knees are apart and the feet are together. But for this one, because we're doing lots of hip stuff today, I would maybe recommend having the knees together so you're not working like as deep into the hip joints. And then from here, you're just going to fold forward, forehead to floor. And rather than having the arms forward, because we're also doing shoulder stuff today, you can just have your arms down by your side. So this is our basic, some people call this like fetal pose rather than child's pose. Just a nice way to stretch out the toes, the ankles, the knees, the hips, while you lengthen your spine and soften your shoulders. It's also very grounding, right? You want to feel your body on the floor. We're going to hold here for 3 minutes. If this shape does not feel good without props, let's grab some props. If you have tight toes, ankles, or knees, you can place a little bit of padding under those tight joints, either by rolling up a mat or by placing like a thin layer of blanket under your knees, under your ankles. If it's hard for you to sit hips to heels, you can also place blankets or pillows in between your calves and thighs so that there's some support there. And if having your forehead on the floor doesn't feel good, you can also place a blanket or pillow either under your head or under your chest for support. And we're just going to hold here for 2 more minutes. Notice where you might be carrying some tension in your body. See if you can let it go. So you're just getting a little bit heavier, a little bit more relaxed, loose. Take an inhale through your nose, maybe stretching the back of the ribs, the back of the body with that inhale. Exhale through your nose, letting go of any lingering tension. As you're ready, you're going to look forward, place your hands on the floor, slowly press yourself up, take your time. Make any motions that feel good for your body and remove any props that you have. Turn around, lie on your back if it feels good. Puddle pose. So in that posture, we stretch out the toes, the ankles, the knees and hips. Stretch the spine, and we, place our head on the floor, right? Very grounding. So now we get this nice rush of blood through the legs, the arms, the back realigns. And after having our forehead on the floor for a while, now we allow the back of our head on the floor, back of the body on the floor. Breathing in and slowly breathing out. Bend your legs if they're not already, feet on the floor. Roll off to one side, maybe the side that you haven't yet, and you can give yourself a nice hug. And then keep rolling. Come back onto all fours, and we will do the other side of dragon. I'll show you in the other direction. So again, you can roll up your mat, replace blankets or pillows underneath your knees. And this time you're going to step your left foot in between your hands, and you can either walk that foot more forward or slide the right knee back more, right blanket back more. So you go into this nice lunge, stretching out the right hip. Again, if you need to grab a book or yoga blocks, you can do so. You can have your hands on either side of your foot. You can have both hands on the inside of your left foot, or you can keep your right hand either on the floor or on some sort of prop, and then take the left elbow to left knee thigh, look up and back. I'm just going to breathe here. And it's working on one side, might not work on the other side. Let your abdomen relax. Sinking into that right hip. It's a nice hip opener. It's also good if you've ever wanted to do the splits, not that you need to want to do the splits, but if you've ever wanted to do the splits, this is a nice way to get there, right? With about 1 minute left, you can stay as you are, or you can try another variation, whatever that might be for you. You might feel a little discomfort here, and that's okay as long as it's not painful, right? Especially towards the end. You might find your edge, and then rather than fighting or forcing, you just give into it and relax a little bit more. Just melt into the posture. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. And slowly empty out. As you're ready, slowly press yourself back up. There's no rush. Bring your hips back. Maybe bring your left knee back, tabletop, doing any motions that feel good for your body. Any counter stretches, no right or wrong, just trusting that your body knows what to do. And then slowly sit back up. Remove your props. Turn around, puddle pose, letting everything stretch out and realign. And just let the floor hold you up. Those hip openers can be kind of intense. So in general in yoga, I recommend breathing through the nose, but every once in a while, it can feel really good, maybe even a little naughty to exhale through the mouth. So this is a nice opportunity if you'd like, inhale through your nose. If it feels good, open your mouth and sigh it out. All right, so it's particularly useful, especially in a home practice where you're not going to freak out the person next to you. But also just if something is a little bit intense, sometimes a sigh from now and then can be really therapeutic. Okay, bend your legs, feet on the floor, roll off to one side, press yourself up. Next, we're going to do what's called shoelace pose. I'm going to give you a couple of options or variations. So just start sitting on your butt with both feet in front of you. Keep your left leg long. And from here, start to cross your right knee on top of your left knee. So this is called half shoelace, and this is a really wonderful place to be. Or you can try bending your left knee so that both knees stack on top. I am fairly flexible, so my knees are stacking and it looks easy, but I know for many of us it's not. You might find that one knee is really higher than the other. You can always place a blanket under or between your knees, under a foot or an ankle. And again, if this is like not accessible, having one leg, the bottom leg long is really wonderful. And I actually prefer this variation because as we fold forward, you get a nice little hamstring stretch. So you can stay upright, or if you'd like, fold forward, maybe walk your butt out a little bit. And again, if the bottom leg is long, you're going to feel a stretch in the hamstring. If the bottom leg is bent, you're going to feel more of a stretch in the right side seat. And then you can just drop your head and relax down. You can also always place pillows or blankets in between your knees and thighs. We're going to hold here for 3 minutes, already a minute in. If letting your spine round like this in a forward fold doesn't feel good to your back, you can also place your hands on the floor long and come up so that your spine is long. I'll show you from the side. So you have an option to just kind of like let your body fall into a cashew shape, or especially if you have a history of slipped discs and this feels like too much pressure on the lower back, you can lengthen your arms a little bit. So you're still holding forward, but the back is nice and long rather than rounding, and that'll take some pressure off. About a minute left. Notice where you might still be holding on to some tension. And sometimes there's obvious areas where many of us carry tension, like our shoulders or abdomen or hips. But sometimes it's not until you really take a moment to check in that you notice, like, my pinky toe is full of tension, or my right earlobe is really tense, right? So this is an invitation to notice maybe those like surprising spots in your body that might be like still a little bit clenched. And you're just going to release and relax. Take a slow inhale through your nose. Slow exhale through your nose. Breathe in. Empty out. And as you're ready, slowly, carefully walk yourself back up. If your bottom leg is crossed, straighten that bottom leg, uncross the top leg, turn, puddle pose. So now we're letting the legs return to normal, the torso and spine return to normal, right? Your head is nice and supported here. You can also always in puddle pose, place a blanket or pillow under your neck or under your head. Always thought yoga is a little bit like chess in that there's a finite number of players, but an infinite number of plays. So even if we're doing shoelace pose, right? Or like before that, like Sphinx pose or banana pose, right? There's a finite number of postures per class, but the plays within them are infinite. Okay, as you're ready, roll off to one side. Take your time, make it feel good. Press yourself up. And let's do the other side of shoelace. So sitting on your butt with your legs long in front of you. This time, keep your right leg long on the floor and cross your left knee over your right knee. And again, that might look like this. It's a little hard to see when I'm wearing black pants, I know, but you can always like place blankets or pillows in between your knees, under a foot. Option to stay with your right leg long or bend your right leg. And from here, if you'd like, start to fold forward. Holding here for 3 minutes. And grabbing props that feel good or letting go of props. Maybe taking a moment to notice how this side might feel the same or different. And again, doing about 70% of what you think you should be doing, right? Especially if you're a go-getter and especially if you use like, I don't know, yoga or fitness as a means of like proving your self-worth. Yin and yoga in general, I think really does try to push back against that. Doesn't matter what you look like in a posture, doesn't matter how deep you can go. It's just an opportunity to move your body, to reconnect with yourself. And sometimes even we get to this place where like the postures are a reflection of who we are on the inside. And that is always like a chef's kiss moment, not right, like not like who you think you should be or what you want other people to think you look like, but truly a moment where like body and mind are in harmony through the breath. And that's not a destination, but a place that every once in a while, if we're very lucky in our yoga practice, we find that moment. And if and when you find that sweet spot where the mind and body are in unison, just enjoy it, right? Knowing that it won't last forever, just really digging into that and enjoying it here. Breath in and breath out. About a minute left. Notice where you might be holding on to some tension, where you might be forcing or fighting. Just let it go. Body gets a little heavier. Mind gets a little clearer. Take a slow inhale through your nose. Easy exhale through the nose. Enjoy the breath in. Savor the breath out. If you're ready, slowly walk yourself back up. Take your time. If your bottom leg is bent, straighten the bottom leg. Straighten your top leg. Turn around. Pedal pose. The rebound. Just taking a moment, right, for everything to stretch out and realign. Slowly roll off to one side, press yourself up. Our last long held posture of the day is Malasana, sometimes called garland pose or a yogi squat. And I'm going to give us a couple different variations and different options depending on where your hips are. It's a really nice hip opener. So you can start by standing up, and please take your time as we have been laying down for some time. So blood flow might be a little confusing there. From here, you're going to have your feet, depending on your body proportions, anywhere from 1 foot between your heels to 3 feet between your heels. For me and my physiology, like the length of my hips, I know you can't see my face, but the length of my hips, a smaller step works. But for many people, a wider step will help you. From here, you're going to turn your heels in and your toes out, so your pelvis is rotating out. Slowly fold forward, hands to floor, bend your knees and sit down. So eventually your garland pose, Malasana, yogi squat will look like this. However, this is not a reality for many of us, and that's okay. I'm going to give you a couple different options for garland pose, and then I'm going to give you another option if you know that yogi squat is not for you today. So some things you can try. If your heels are off the floor, you can place your blanket underneath your heels so that then they can rest down. And slowly over time, you'll start to make that blanket a little bit thinner, right? So every day, maybe you make the blanket a little thinner. Eventually, the heels come to the floor. You can also grab a book or several books and place them under your butt. Someone grab some more books. It's helpful to have a library in your bag, right? If you place some books here, then your butt doesn't have to drop so much. And then you can practice what this feeling feels like in your hips and your pelvis, right? Without having your hips drop down all the way. And slowly over time, you would remove books, right? So that slowly over time, the hips sink down a little bit more. Okay. If having books under your butt or pillows under your heels does not feel good for you, there is an alternative to this squat that's called Happy Baby. So if you want to join me in Happy Baby, I will show you. You would lie on your back, bend your legs, touch the outsides of your feet, and pull down. And this is something, if you'd ever like to try a yogi squat, but you're not there yet, you can try Happy Baby. Do this a couple times every day, a couple times every week, and it's the same motion in the hips, right, without having to put pressure on them, and eventually you'll be able to do the squat. Whether you are in your Happy Baby or your garland pose, we're going to hold here for 2 more minutes. Now, for my folks who do have their heels on the floor, can place your hands at heart center and press out. And if this is easy, you can point your toes forward so the insides of your feet are parallel. From here, you're going to drop the shoulders down, lift the chest up, and breathe. So this is how a lot of the world eats, hangs out by the side of the road, uses the bathroom, but there's like a startling number of Americans that cannot sit like this. So if you cannot sit like this, you're not alone. This is, again, not something that's like normal to our culture, but it's really healthy for the hips. It's good for digestion. It's also good if you menstruate. This is like a nice thing to do when you're menstruating. It's good for blood flow. So just keep that in mind. A friend of mine this is not accessible to him. He will do this every day, or, with like a blanket under his heels or books under his butt while he watches TV. And his girlfriend will like send me videos being like, here he is, he's doing it today. another yogi I know will like do this anytime they're waiting, who lives in New York will do this anytime that they're like waiting for like a train in New York in the metro. So this is something that you can do rather like, you know, obviously during a yoga practice, but also if you want to work on your hip mobility here, you can do this for like a minute or two at a time or while you're doing something else. It doesn't need to be like an hour-long yoga practice, right? Just like for a minute a day and the hips start to open up. We're going to hold here for 1 more minute. This is the part where it might be a little uncomfortable. It's okay if it's uncomfortable, but if it's painful, you know what to do. You can take a break. You can grab a prop. You can do happy baby instead of garland. Otherwise, lift the chest up, sink the hips down, press the elbows into knees. Slow breath in, easy breath out. Inhale, exhale. Anywhere that you're still holding on to tension in the body, let it go. Okay, as you're ready, if you're doing happy baby, you're gonna slowly release the grip from your feet, bring your knees back together and lower your arms and legs down. If you're in garland, Malasana, I like to put my hands in front of me. Maybe if you want, you can lift your hips up for a second, lengthening the legs, turn the toes back in. So toes forward, and then as you're ready, make your way back onto your back. Ooh, puddle pose. Oh my, I feel that. Arms and legs down. This might be a nice time to like sigh it out if that feels good. And hip poses, hip openers, I should say, can be quite intense, or the release from them can be intense. Particularly, many of us tend to store some emotion in our hips. So if you feel like a sudden urge to like cry a little bit or laugh a little bit or whatever, like a temperature change, a nervous system change, that is all very normal. When I first started doing yoga and people would say like, you carry emotion in your hips, I was like, what does that mean? That doesn't make sense to me. But on a very biological level, right, when we are stressed out, we tense up, we round our spine, we tuck our tailbone under, we drop our shoulders, right? That's like, you know, when your boss yells at you or your partner's mad at you, right? That's what you do, right? And slowly over time, that tension starts to build up like in the hips or in the chest. So that's what, on a biological level, that's what we mean when you hear a yoga teacher say, you carry emotion in your hips. It's all those times that you hunch forward in times of stress, right? It's an involuntary response, involuntary nervous system response, and opening the hips can start to release that tension, but it can feel quite intense in the process. We're going to end with a gentle spine twist. It's not going to be a long held one, just a twist to reset the back. You can bring your arms out to the side, bend both legs so your knees and feet are together, and roll to your left so that your right hip stacks on top of left hip, right knee on top of left knee, right foot on top of left foot. Try to keep your right shoulder on the floor. And for this, if you'd like, you can hug your thighs in towards your chest so the knees are coming towards your left arm. Your head on the floor. Look to the right, right ear to the floor. Just take a breath here. If you're looking to the right, roll your head back to center. Slowly roll your hips back to center, and then other side, roll to the right, left hip off the floor, left leg on top of right leg, left shoulder on the floor, if you can. Have your head on the floor, or look over left shoulder, and take a breath here. Again, you can use the breath and the expansion and the contraction of the ribs to stretch your body. Let's do that one more time. If you're looking to the left, come back to center, roll to the left this time, right hip on top of left hip, look to the right. If you're looking over right shoulder, look back up to the ceiling, roll to the right, I should say, left hip on top of right hip. Do the other side, whichever side that was. Look over left shoulder, take a breath. Look back to the ceiling, roll back to center, arms and legs down. Final Shavasana, final puddle pose. You can put a blanket under your back, under your head or neck. You can place a blanket over you, right, under your legs. Get creative. Be a little bougie. Nobody's watching, right? Let your arms and legs relax. Let your hands and feet be heavy. Sometimes we think that to be effective, we need to be intense and we need to move quickly. And Yin Yoga reminds us that actually moving slow and doing a little bit less at times can be its own version of intensity and can certainly be effective, not just in healing our body from physical pain, but in bringing our mind and body back together, healing from like emotional, psychological, or spiritual trauma as well. So anytime you're feeling a little bit disembodied, right, you don't need to do a whole hour-long Yin Yoga class, but maybe just like, puddle pose where you're really intentional with your body, or a child's pose, or that Malasana squat pose, right? Just something, some sort of movement that brings you back into your body, back into your breath, back into the present moment. This is a beautiful gift that you give yourself, and no one can take it away from you. Take a slow inhale through your nose. Easy exhale through your nose. And all is coming. Stay in final Savasana as long as you'd like. When it is time to leave, please move slowly. And especially if you live in the mid-Atlantic where it is very hot, please drink lots of water, drink lots of water, drink lots of water, and I will see you soon.